And, and it's really been used as a tool to recruit solely. There's lots of companies out there that do it and do it effectively. It really helps to streamline the process for applicants as well as business owners. And with healthcare staffing being so popular, or healthcare being so popular over the last couple of years, I wanted to really touch on how, as an agency owner, you should be on social media recruiting and some of the do's and don'ts around that process. Okay, so a little bit about me, just in case you have some newbies here. I'm Shemeka. I'm the founder and CEO of the Nurse-Owned Staffing Agency. So not only am I the creator of the group, I'm also a NOSA myself. I have previous background in human resources, as well as being a travel nurse for close to 6 years myself. I do staffing as an expert and consultant. I run my own staffing agency, as well as I run a community. So that's really how a lot of you guys found me. So I have a NOSA community over close to 5,000 healthcare professionals throughout the United States. So these people are interested in either creating, growing, learning how to network, collaborate, and explore healthcare staffing in a safe place. So one of the reasons around why I decided to create it was because in our early stages of starting our own agency, there just wasn't a lot of information out there. So creating the group and getting to where we are 3 years later is so amazing, because it allows me to know that, one, I wasn't the only one on this path, but that there are other business owners who are willing to provide insight or support or share information about the process as well, so that we can all win in this healthcare staffing business. As well, I've been featured in Allure Magazine, Entrepreneurs League, and Katie Harris's Nursepreneurs podcast, as well as her actual course. So I ran a staffing mastermind course with her as well. So online recruiting is all about finding quality applicants. So a lot of our applicants, ourselves included, spend a lot of time on social media, on all the more popular platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or on some of the newer ones such as TikTok, OnlyFans, Pinterest, all those platforms, YouTube as well. So making connections is a key part of what makes how recruiting was done previously versus how you see it being done now. So social media is where people hang out. So it's a place where people not only express ideas, but it's also a place where people make connections and get to know a little bit more about people and their businesses. So one of the things that I tell people that's the best way to relate to what social media recruiting is about is they want to know about the person behind the desk. So for many of us, recruiting, if we started, say, a decade or so ago, you went on a website, maybe Monster, depending on how old you were, or you looked through a newspaper, and that's kind of how you found the job. You didn't know anything about the person that was recruiting the job. You might know a little bit about the CEO or business owner, but all that information was a little bit limited. So there was never really a true connection. It was a job, you were interested, you would apply, have an interview, potentially get the job, and that was the process. But what a lot of people are looking for is to know a little bit about the person behind the job, the person behind the desk. So sites like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and a bunch of others are really honing in, as well as TikTok, on the idea that you can recruit people through these platforms. So you can recruit people through socializing. So you can recruit people through things that you have in common beyond work. Similar interests or things that you're looking to learn more about. So it's a tremendous opportunity to connect with candidates. Many who may have not found, would not necessarily have found you through traditional routes. So there's a lot of big companies, whether it's Monster, Career Builder. There's so many traditional websites out there that you guys are so familiar with, but social media kind of allows you to take it to that next step in finding applicants. So some ways you want to kind of think about how to recruit on social media is kind of how you set up your platform. So when people go to your Facebook business page or your LinkedIn page or your Instagram or your TikTok, if you're like me, or even if you have a YouTube channel, what are they saying? Like, what is the messaging that you're bringing across? Is it on a more personal level or is it more business focused? What I tell people in creating your brand or creating any business, the consistency matters. And they want to feel like this person cares about me too. And you want to provide that within limits. So you want to make sure that when you're participating in conversations on social media, it's the right conversation. So I always tell people Facebook groups is a great resource and tool. They have grown leaps and bounds since 2014 when I was a traveler, where there was maybe like a handful, where there's thousands of Facebook groups to find nurses, CNAs, LPNs, CMAs, all types of roles and positions in healthcare, sonography, allied health, pharmacists, nurse practitioners, PAs. There's so many resources already out there. But when you're on these groups, it's so important to have the right conversations. And I say this to say that, this. Sometimes people on social media who are looking for groups and opportunities aren't always looking with the same intention as you are. So you want to be mindful about how you comment, what you post, when you post, all those things matter. And then if you're responding to people's comments, to kind of keep it clean and consistent across the board, I encourage people not to kind of get sucked into the whole DM me interested thing. If they're interested and you provided a great platform or great post for them to follow and know what they need to do as far as next steps are concerned, interested isn't enough. So I encourage people to maybe stay away from that, because there's usually two pools of applicants in groups. There's either those who are genuinely interested, and then there's those who are fishing. So you want to make sure that within your job post that you put out there, you provide enough information to make sure that those who are interested are able to easily take the next steps. The other thing is, this is a great time to talk a little bit about your culture or the culture of your business in a soft way. If your business is located in the Southwest, it's a great idea to post a picture that's kind of related around the culture of the Southwest or being in the Southwest or things that are popular in the Southwest. Those are great images. When posting, you always want to post some sort of picture. Sometimes, your brand is about being funny, and sometimes your brand is about being creative or being visual. So depending on which direction you want to go in, taking a soft approach to promote the culture of your business is always a great tool. And then, of course, don't overlook the niche networks. I talked about this many, many times. And when we talk about niche networks, we're talking about specific all the way down to as far down as you can get. So if you only staff for long-term care, or if you only staff in hospitals or dialysis centers, or you only staff for CNAs, there are groups, probably now more so than you realize, that only have job opportunities for that population, which allows you to not focus on efforts that are going to be fruitless. Hey, if you're doing long-term care, there's a group called long-term care nursing, long-term care RN, LPN, CNAs. There's a group, $5,000 group. There's a Southwest nursing group. So there's so many groups out there that you want to kind of direct your efforts as much as possible so that you're not overextending yourself and that you're actually getting the result that you intend from posting the job, which of course is the applicants. The other thing too, when posting or just being a part of the groups, is read the group rules, guys. I would hate to see you get put out the group or not be able to post in the group because you didn't read the rules. All the groups are set up a little bit differently. So it's important to make sure that you read them and that you are actually the appropriate audience that they want posting in the groups. And onto some other platforms that are equally as good as Facebook. As you can tell, Facebook is my favorite. Instagram. Instagram is like right behind it. Posting, I just recently saw a post about one of the companies who had a post about their employees' experience. Those are great ways to engage potential applicants. Kind of have your people share about their experience, whether it be through a video or an actual, still post. Be consistent in your posting, especially on Instagram, because it's so picture focused or video focused now more so. You want to be consistent. And I tell people, Consistency doesn't look like you post jobs every day as much as it looks like you post good content every day. One of the things to remember about Instagram is a little bit different than Facebook is Instagram is visual, so people will swipe and look, or they'll look through your stories. But if your desire is to have them do an action, you have to include that somewhere in the text. So it could be in the initial post, or you can place it up on the text at the bottom. So check us out here at ... So you put it in the post, you put it in the text at the bottom. Follow us, like us on these social media platforms too. Sign up to receive more information about this. So with Instagram, in my experience, you want to create an action. Whereas Twitter, I feel like Twitter is way more informational, but you also want to do some of that action piece as well so that they know, hey, check out our look at, follow, like, tell us, share. Those types of words are kind of action words that you want to use on social media. And then, of course, my new recent favorite is on TikTok. There are so many, TikTok kind of allows so many companies and just like regular everyday people to share content. There are a lot of people on TikTok who their whole TikTok is based on sharing jobs. Why not connect with those people? That's a great opportunity. TikTok gets a little bit of a broader expansion because they base it, you begin to see posts on TikTok based on what you like and what you see and what you talk about a little bit. So if I'm talking about jobs, probably tonight when I go through my TikTok, I'll see a lot of jobs. I'll see a lot of nurse jobs, and some of the nurses are just sharing jobs from other companies. Sometimes they have an affiliation with that company, sometimes they don't, but it's worth reaching out to someone who might get 500 hearts or 100 or 1,000 comments about a job that they communicate that with your job. And as always, I say, do it yourself. It makes it more fun. It definitely makes it more personal. But if you don't want to, kind of engaging in collaborations or any sort of affiliations is always a great idea. On LinkedIn, you really want to think about that audience, in that you want to provide a lot of information. So LinkedIn is more geared towards individuals who are going to kind of look through and want to get all the information and then maybe reach out via the messaging system in LinkedIn. So that's a great tool to also share industry specific information about things happening in the industry. In addition to job posts, I know a lot of people, especially on the corporate side of the recruiting element, find jobs through LinkedIn. And a lot of it is through the posting, through messaging, as well as you're able to know people who are also within your, people who are within, we're doing our presentation on LinkedIn because it's its own little beast, but people who are within your circle. So like my circle at this time in my life is nurses, nurse professionals, travelers, but then there's a second layer to my circle. And that might look like administrators and ADONs and people on the Northeast and the Southeast. So LinkedIn has a couple of different layers as far as how they expand your circle. Like I mentioned, getting your employees involved is always great. And then finally, help your recruiters grow a social media presence. I'm not sure if you guys know this, a lot of the Facebook groups that have been out there are run by recruiters. Their company allows them to run Facebook groups. They're solely run by recruiters at some of your middle-sized, large agencies. And sometimes they'll share that they're run by the recruiters, or you'll notice just how the posts are listed. But a lot of companies have their recruiters on Facebook, especially in creating their own group. You should do the same. So you should have not only a business page. I encourage everybody in the group, in the NOSA group, to create your own page. I wouldn't do it in a way of just kind of doing something generic. So I wouldn't just do like a long-term care page as much as I would do a Midwest long-term care, or a Northeast or Southeast, or for me, DMV or tri-state area. Those things that kind of make it more specific. Or if you're doing per diem, you can do per diem or make $500 a day per diem, kind of something catchy as well. but there are quite a few recruiters in all of the platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, even on YouTube, who have a social media presence where all they do is talk about job openings. So you should be doing the same. So a couple of tips about LinkedIn. Like I said, we're going to be doing a separate presentation next week on LinkedIn, but a couple of recruiting tips includes that LinkedIn is a great tool, but you have to have your presence there. So you have to have people following your page on LinkedIn, your business page. You have to have a lot more engagement and be engaged with other similar types of businesses or industries related to what you do. So you want to make sure that you have a fully complete brand page. So brand page, business page, where the information about your business, what you do, how you do it, how to get in touch with you, website, all of that should be in there. You can filter through right candidates. So you want to make sure that you're consistently posting on that platform. And then messaging. So just like we do messaging on Facebook, there is a messaging feature on LinkedIn. So you want to definitely have a warm touch in reaching out to potential applicants as they receive the notification to kind of say, hey, this is something that might work for you. You also are able to send them messages to kind of introduce yourself and introduce your company. So a couple of the benefits. So social media for me has grown so much over the last 3 years from a recruiting, human resources, and healthcare staffing point of view. I tell people to combine the activities, combine the steps and your things that you're doing around social media so that you're not overdoing it. So some of the platforms that I use to help me do that include Facebook Creator. So that's a free platform. There's a lot of other platforms that kind of bring it all together. I also use Thrive, which is a small business platform where I'm able to do one post that'll hit all those platforms. But and then also Canva has a scheduler element. And what all of those things have in common is the scheduling piece. So I schedule out my posts. Posts that you guys see today, tomorrow, 9 times out of 10, we're done in June. And I fill in throughout the month if there's other specific things going on, but I am planned out all of the posts from now until the end of the year, and then I fill in. So that kind of relieves some of the pressure in doing posts around your business, but it also really allows you to be able to keep up with it. So if you say, hey, every Monday at 10 o'clock, if that's a great time for your particular page, I'm going to post there, then that's something that I would encourage you to go ahead and schedule the post. If, for instance, I do like Motivational Mondays, if that's something you're going to consistently do, go ahead and schedule it. Schedule it for the rest of the year so that one, the content is going out there and it's not something you have to think through. I will say you do have to kind of take out time and think through, and we have a social media calendar available to think of things that you want to talk about in addition to your job posting. We have a Talk About It Tuesday or Talk About It Thursday. Marketing Mondays are good. Wellness Wednesdays, where you kind of talk about things that you can do to improve or maintain self-care. What are you doing on the weekends, or Fun Day Friday? So there's so many different topics that you can add on to your regular posting on these platforms around business related things. So as I mentioned, benefits of social media and recruiting is the idea businesses can recruit and hire using social media is no longer a gimmick. Like I said, it's moved rapidly. It is a vital channel for sourcing candidates. I think you get a good, equally, if not better quality of candidate than if you use your traditional routes. For me, it's been a lot less time intensive, and it allows me to show the other side of the business that people want to see. Like they want to see me or kind of see what else I do or things that I like to do, so that you can connect to the person. It allows you to reach some of the elusive passive candidates, see talent and passion firsthand. So if they follow you, you can also look at their page as well. You get resume details without a resume. So a little bit about people's background is shared through their social media. It allows you to see about great culture fits so that they know more about your business culture, your style, how you write things, how you communicate, what's important to you. And then also filter out bad candidates. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was talking about the Facebook groups, it's really important to understand that in the groups, there are different types of recruitment strategies, as well as there are different types of applicants in those groups. So I wouldn't spend a lot of time on the unsure applicant, but I would make sure that you provide enough information for applicants to make decisions about next steps in those platforms. And then the most important thing is it saves money. All these social media platforms are free. So it does take time to really sit down and work through them and make them work for you. But I guarantee the time is worth the benefit of the money that you would either be spending in hiring a recruiter who may essentially end up doing the things that we're talking about here, or kind of going back down the road to traditional methods of recruiting, which are kind of easing out of the culture of recruitment and hiring. So create a social media recruitment strategy. So you want to create something that works for you. So when I talk about branding and your voice, you really want to think about what image, what things, what types of pictures and people that you want to represent your agency, as well as what image you want people to think about when they think about your agency name or your brand. One first start, or one great stepping start, is your colors, but also it's kind of the messaging, so that, hey, if you're more on the information side and versus the motivational side, that's kind of when we talk about like messaging of your company. As it says here, what works for one company doesn't always work for the next. So you want to make sure that you're taking out the time to think about, when people think of this, I want them to think about that, or think about that. I want them to feel like this or feel like that. And in doing so, you're really creating your strategy so that if you decide to hand it off to someone else, or hire a virtual assistant, or even a recruitment person to do those things, when they post on your behalf, they're also speaking in that same voice, and they're able to share the information in the same way. So a couple of other tips as we wrap up. Social media is the go-to. It's not changing. We're not going back to hiring through newspapers, even though some people still do. We're even moving even more away from the hiring process being as cumbersome as it's been in our industry. So if you're not on board with social media, or even if you're struggling, connect with people, resources, connect with free resources and information sessions. Probably now more than ever, we're having Zoom meetings, we're having Zoom interviews, we're having Zoom virtual job fairs. It's not something that we're going to backpedal to into the future. It's allowed people to conveniently and easily be a part of something. And it's probably will be integrated into more things that we do as we move into the future. You always want to consider that the overall goal of social media recruiting, or social media in general, is to build a high quality talent pool or build relationships. You want to also always make sure that you reach your goals. Your company must first create goals which you measure through your success. So I tell people, be realistic. I honestly can say I was never on Instagram or any of the social media platforms I'm on until I started the agency. So it's important to kind of take out the time, take a step back, be honest with yourself, and understand what you're good at and what you're not good at. But it's really, in this day and age, not an option to not figure out social media, as much as maybe you need to get a little bit more support in making it happen. If you have a business and you have a website, that's great. But what's even better is, do you have a Facebook business page? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have a Twitter? Do you have a LinkedIn page? Those kind of make something that's good even better, and it really allows you to reach out to a wider audience 24/7. Again, before implementing your social media strategy, you want to start first with kind of tracking some key metrics on your current sourcing, which is essentially looking at how are you getting your applicants? Where are they coming from? If you're not tracking it, you need to start tracking it today. You need to know where they come from. Are they coming from your website? Are they coming from your Facebook page? Are they being referred by other employees or other people in the industry? That's how you want to track it. And then from there, the next step would be from those sources, whether it be social media, online recruitment tools, or your website, you then want to see how many of those individuals are actually being converted to applicants and then being converted to employees. That kind of tells you where you want to put your focus, as well as tells you where you want to shift your focus. So if all your people are coming through the website, that's great. But then maybe you need to also spend some time on your social media if you're not reaching anybody on your Facebook business page or any of those platforms. So after creating your, tracking your sourcing and recruitment efforts, then you want to set goals, set realistic goals. Like I mentioned before, YouTube, Facebook has a great education program on setting up business page. Because Facebook owns Instagram, you can also use Facebook Creator, which allows you to schedule out your posts for both platforms. So that's kind of how we started. Initially, we did posts on all the platforms, which was a lot of work. Then when Facebook created Facebook Creator and started to allow you to schedule your post out, we did that. And then when Facebook acquired Instagram, we did that. So we went from posting ourselves, which is very time intensive, to scheduling posts on Facebook Creator for Facebook, then scheduling those same posts on Facebook Creator for Facebook and Instagram. And then we moved on to another platform where we do one post that is seen on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So those are goals. Those are things that you can move towards. And one of the things is once you kind of get a handle over it, it will no longer be a time-intensive activity, as some people have expressed, because you'll say, hey, on the third Wednesday of the month, I'm going to take 2 hours and I'm going to set up my social media, or it's an assignment you can give to your virtual assistant, and we're going to do it for the rest of the quarter. And then it just starts moving on its own. It becomes a train that moves on its own. So I found with social media, especially social media recruiting, automating as many things as possible allows me to do more of the engagement, more of the commenting, more of the back reaching, and less of the day-to-day manual task that social media can create. And then a few other final tips. So I've touched on a couple of different times about making sure that you have a clean, clear, directive post on any of the platforms so that you don't experience this. And I'm speaking of my own story that we experienced when we started out, but it's happened to others. So what you don't want to do, this is some good advice, guys, is create a post into a group. I'm talking about Facebook, and that post get hundreds of comments and you are not ready. And some of the comments that you get could be that, well, I'm interested. That's an indication that you didn't tell them what to do next a lot of times. And then with 200 comments in 20 minutes for our experience, we posted in the group, we got 200 comments in 20 minutes. We're excited. And then it becomes overwhelming because we can't keep up with the comments. We're trying to reply to everybody. Over time, people are sharing, and it just becomes a bigger than handle. So we learned from that experience. And a lot of times you'll see that in your extra large Facebook groups where there's 10, 15,000 members. So you want to be mindful of that when you post. And that it's great that your job is getting a lot of engagement. And sometimes that equals to a lot of people applying. But if you're not keeping up with it and you're unable to manage it, then you kind of appear that, hey, and this happened to us. Oh, is this a real agency? Who is this? Have you heard of this company? So you don't want to kind of shift the conversation or that positive interaction into something a little bit less. And then the two other things I would say is just kind of things to be mindful around is when you're messaging with applicants, I would want to keep that or limit that to minimal so that if they're interested, you can talk to them on the phone or they can submit the application. For me in our industry, an indication that I'm interested is that I take out the time to submit the application. Otherwise, I take those types of candidates as individuals who are just fishing, and that's fine. But as a small business owner, I don't have time to manage that. So if you say in your post, apply here, submit your resume here, which I will push away from the idea of submitting resume versus having them actually apply. Go to this, or it's even better if they can just apply through Facebook so that you can make that initial touch bases, set up the initial phone conversation, and get the ball rolling so that if it's a good fit, it's a good fit, but if it's not, it's not, and you haven't wasted a lot of time. And then the other thing is use all of your platforms and bring it all together. So the more presence you have on social media platforms, it allows you to more easily do a virtual job fair or do a Zoom session about expanding to another state or anything like that. It makes it so much easier because then you're not in the process of looking for the people because the people are already there. They're already following you. If it's expanding from, say I expand from Delaware to New Jersey, I have a following of people from different places who would either share or engage with the idea that my business is growing. So you want to kind of think about stuff like that, as well as even if you have like a immediate large need, if you had a need for a lot of employees in a short period of time, having the audience built in already really allows you to do that. And I say this so many times that I'm going to close with this. Some of your large companies have done a spectacular job at solely using social media to recruit. Check them out. You guys know who I'm talking about? I'm not going to get into details, but some of your very large companies who prior to COVID-19 we had never heard about have used 100% social media on targeting, commenting, engaging with applicants. And that's the only tool that they've used. So me talking about social media and recruiting is such a small piece of it because it's going to become something bigger when it comes to recruiting applicants for our industry. So if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out. I'm going to save this onto the platform for you guys who are interested. If you haven't, check out Facebook Creator. Definitely have your Facebook business page set up. Follow us here at the NOSA Group, as well as invite us to follow your page. I try to follow as many NOSAs as possible and follow a fellow NOSA as well. If you want to leave your social media platform here in the comments, feel free to do so. And that's all we have. And next week we'll be going or diving into LinkedIn. So if you're interested in knowing more about how you can use LinkedIn for your business or actually to get potential clients, definitely check us out next Wednesday.